I knew that there were some truths about myself that I hadn't even realized yet. But what I knew is that I wasn't safe in the world. People say a boogeyman in the dark. Well, I had a real boogeyman. I mean, he wasn't under my bed, he wasn't in my closet, but he was definitely in my head. And I think about how it all could have turned out. I had some pretty strong maladaptive coping mechanisms as a child. I'll stand in any fire with anyone, and I'll give you all of my attention. It doesn't have to be about me any longer. I've done that.
A shout out to the friend of the show, Amy, Sam Adams, Jan Kjelovic, and Olivier Libouban. They donated at buymeacoffee.com/storiesofage, and you can too. Visit buymeacoffee.com/storiesofage to support the making of more episodes. This episode contains mention of rape, drug use, and attempted suicide. Your discretion is advised. This episode has recording issues, so bear with us through this part. It is worth it. Welcome to Stories of Healing, a podcast where we explore what it is to be human, to suffer, and to heal. My name is Vincent Paul, and I'm your host. Hi, Jeff. Welcome on Stories of Healing.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm very grateful to have you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you. I met you during a New Warrior training organized by the Mindcan Project. It was a weekend retreat. And you were one of the leaders and you were shining. So my first question to you is, can you tell me a little bit about this work you do with the Mindcan Project?
Yeah, it's been a long road with the Mankind Project. 30 plus years. I went through, it's called the New Warrior Training Adventures, is one of the weekends that we offer. And I went through in February of 1990. It was one of the very first trainings. And I thought I saw, and I think I did, I thought I saw truth with a big T, not truth with a small t. I saw men speaking their truth, but also men holding sacred space, in a non-religious way, for these men to feel safe enough to speak their truth. That resonated, scared the crap out of me. I remember the first night I laid in the bed virtually all night long going, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? I knew that there were some truths about myself that I hadn't even realized yet. There were things about me that hadn't come to the forefront, hadn't come to my memory. I was 29, so I wasn't fully realized. And so all those things were scary to me. There was unknown things about my past and unknown things about my future. But all these men wanted from me was my truth. And I think what scared me the most is I wasn't sure what that was. I didn't really know.
Did you come to realize what your truth was during this weekend?
No. What I came to realize was, for the first time in my life, that there was a safe place with men that I could explore that. I'm a sexual abuse survivor, and that's one of the things that was walled off from my memories. I hadn't even remembered that when I went through the weekend. But what I knew is that I wasn't safe in the world. That I was sure of. There was something in the fiber of me. I was abused when I was 3 years old. And I was terrified up until February of 1990. I was still terrified of many things in life, and I didn't know why. And it was the first time where I thought I could bring my terror to a place that was safe and be seen. And up until that time, my terror had always been a secret. Nobody knew that I was terrified. I mean, my family saw the symptoms of it. I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and families and parents of my generation didn't do psychology and send their kids to psychologists.
Mm-hmm.
At least my parents sure did.
Yeah.
And so the symptoms were there that I was terrified. Right, I was afraid of the dark. I was terrified of the dark as a child.
Mm.
Like I read, we had the Encyclopedia Britannica for children. It's this big, huge encyclopedias,
Yeah.
right? A through Z.
Uh-huh.
I read them all twice.
Wow.
Because I was an insomniac my entire childhood.
When you said you're in touch, what age range are you thinking about?
From 3 until I left my house, until 20 years old or so, when I went away to college.
Do you mind telling us a little more what happened? You mentioned being a survivor of sexual abuse.
Yeah. I don't remember everything. I know where it happened because I went back. This was my family in 1962 moved to Brussels, Belgium, and a neighbor, young man, had he raped me, and the memories were just very fleeting. I'm sure my psyche was protecting myself. Part of my psyche took control and cut a deal basically with myself and said, you know what, I'm not going to let you remember this.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember he had said that, if I told anybody, he would kill me or kill my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I was only 3. I'm guessing right around 3. I'm not sure, but my memory is when I look down, I see these little white leather baby shoes.
Uh-huh.
So I was looking down at my baby shoes when I was abused. And and then my wife and I went back to Brussels just 5 or 6 years ago, and I was taking pictures of my house. I found my house, and it was in the viewfinder of the camera, I remember. And I went over to the neighbor's house, and I was like, it happened in that garage right there. So it's beautiful and horrible at the same time,
Yeah.
I was weeping and my wife was supporting me. And so it was very tender to go back there and also, there was a piece about it about being hurt and sexualized so young, but then standing there with my wife. We've been married for almost 35 years, together for almost 40. And she knows and was right there with me. And what a long, strange trip it's been,
And a gift to have someone to be there with you.
Yeah.
Well, you're kind of refacing that awful experience.
Yes. And the person in my life. She is the singular person in my life. Offers me safety and wholeness, and healthy sexuality, and just all of that. And I think about how it all could have turned out. I had some pretty strong maladaptive coping mechanisms as a child.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
so of course. You mentioned you had symptoms or side effects, or I forgot the word.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling us?
Well, when I was young, like I said, I was just super afraid of the dark. I mean, it happened in the dark. I remember that. And people say a boogeyman in the dark. Well, I had a real boogeyman. I mean, he wasn't under my bed. He wasn't in my closet, but he was definitely in my head. And I didn't know because I couldn't remember. So I didn't know why I was so terrified. A friend of mine said, when he met me in the Warriors, and this is a few years in, he's a psychologist. He's like, oh, you don't know what fear is. You go from no fear to terror. You don't know that there's a gradient there, that you can be a little afraid, kind of afraid, really afraid, terrorized. Well, my meter, it was hardwired because it happened so young. If I was afraid to go outside, I felt terror about that, or afraid to go to school, I felt terror about that. So my response was very heightened. So that was one symptom. But darkness was a big deal. And I mean, darkness until if I would fall asleep in front of the TV at night when I was 45 years old, it was all the courage I could muster to turn off that TV and walk upstairs to my bedroom. That's how profound it was. Now I'm cool. Now I'm good with it, but it took a long time.
How did you cope as a child?
I hid it a lot. I lied a lot.
You lied to yourself or to others?
Yes, to everybody. That I wasn't afraid all the time. And then very early on, I started doing drugs. I was a pretty profound drug addict by the time I was 12 years old. And now I look at it, I look at a 12-year-old child or an 11-year-old child, and they're these tiny little beautiful beings. And here I was searching out drugs to numb myself. And
did it work for you?
For a little while. But pretty quickly, my parents, obviously, my problem wasn't my parents. My parents were loving. I mean, we were a very typical family, wonderfully dysfunctional in our own way, but no one was struck in our house. And, it was a loving household. My parents were great people. I loved them dearly. So the lying begat, the stuffing of emotion begot drug addiction, which causes me to lie even more and causes me to not be real even more. And I hung out with the wrong kids, right? And a few of them died when I was very young from drug addiction. And so that worked for a little while, and then I realized I was going down the wrong path.
How old were you when you realized you were going down the wrong path?
Probably 13, 14, right around in there.
So it had been a few years that you were using drugs.
Yeah. And luckily I found Taekwondo, martial art. This master moved in a mile from my house, and there was a show called Kung Fu on TV, and there was a piece in me that longed for that. And I think what it longed for was one, self-protection, right? Because I didn't feel safe. And also structure and a way, because I was so unstructured and frazzled on the inside. I was so overwhelmed by life all the time that I thought maybe if there was structure, I wouldn't be overwhelmed and so terrified all the time. It was a huge gift to me. I just lucked out, and I was my master's second student in the United States, so I basically had private lessons for a couple of years because he was just starting a school. And he was old school and very strict. It worked out it gave me the structure I needed, and I advanced very quickly and was able to defend myself, felt comfortable defending myself.
You mentioned felt comfortable. Was it also a change of relationship to your own body that you gained from the training?
It was, yes. There was this, I don't know this, but I think for me there was this profound, and I didn't know this, but there was this fear that I couldn't trust my body to protect me.
That makes sense. You were 3 years old. You were physically weak.
Yes.
You were 3 years old.
Yeah. And this was all intuitive because I hadn't remembered my abuse yet. But it was in every fiber of my being.
Yeah.
I just knew that I needed structure and I needed to be able to protect myself. And that helped somewhat. It really did. And that's what I did. I became very good. People were like, 4-time national champion. They're like, "Oh, you were so good." And I was like, I was so scared. It wasn't about being the best. I was just so tired of being terrified all the time. So, and that helped. It gave me an awareness. I was awake and aware. That's part of being a black belt, is I could see my surroundings and feel like I had some control over that.
Over your environment.
Of my own environment, and that I was safe. And that was very healing to me. And then I went to college and I had that confidence, still terrified, still scared of the dark, but in a different way. Now I was a young man starting to feel more confident, and met my wife the first day of college.
Nice.
And that was it. It was love at first sight. And so I had that. And then realizing in my 20s, I was still using a little bit of marijuana and some cocaine. So I was still an addict, but I was a super high functioning addict. And I realized when I was about ready to graduate from college that things weren't all okay inside of me. I was getting old enough to know there's something still off here. You've done all this stuff. You've got this young woman that is just awesome and she loves you, and you're still using. Not a lot, just a little bit every day.
And it was a relation of something to do with your inner felt sense of yourself?
Yes, yeah. And I think safety still. It was still a safety thing. I still needed to numb that voice inside of me that was like, you're never going to be safe. You're never going to be safe. And so that's when I decided to do the New Warrior Training Adventure. Just looking at it stepwise, how wise my young self was without knowing exactly what happened to me, that I was smart enough. When I was 12, I was a drug addict.
And now Jeff described his attempted suicide, putting a noose around his neck.
When I was 14, I put it because I was so tired of being terrified. And I had one foot off the table. I put my dad's desk underneath the light fixture. I tied his ties into it. And my mom knocked on the door and she said, "Dinner." And it hadn't registered with me that my mother, who cherished me, would find my body hanging from the ceiling of my bedroom. And that's when I found Taekwondo. That's when I found out the drugs weren't working for me, right? I was just like, this is obviously not working.
We're about to commit suicide.
Yeah, I literally had 1 foot off the edge of the desk.
And if it wasn't for your mom just knocking on the door and saying dinner, we might not be having this discussion today.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I'd taken the light fixture out and tied into the electrical box. I knew that if I just tied into the light, that my body weight would, I was going to do it. But I decided a half hour before that to do that. I've read about the impulsivity of young suicide, and that's exactly what it was. I was just so tired of being so terrified.
That the drugs weren't working, nothing was working.
Yeah.
The only thing you could see as a relief was death itself.
Was death. But what I was saying is the wisdom in that. I was wise enough to go, oh my God, my parents love me and this isn't working, and my mom would have found my body. I need to do something else. And
so you realize the power of connection and
yes,
being loved by someone else.
Yes. And the willingness to go, okay, what else do I need? This guy moved in a mile away, started a Taekwondo school. It scares me, but I'm going anyway to give control over to a man, right? Yeah. But the wisdom within inside of me was like looking for healing.
How would you call this part of you that
I call it's love. It's profound love. Enough love to love myself, to hear what was actually going on inside of me. And I think it was reinforced by my family that I had value. I've worked with a lot of different folks in my life of varying degrees of dysfunction, I'll just say. And some people have hope and some people don't. And I think I had some hope and I had love. And there was this wisdom, this wisdom inside of me that was like, next, you're on your path. And so think about that. It's like drugs. I tried drugs, and maybe the drugs kept me alive for a while, right? Because I was so terrified.
Because it
Yeah.
numbed the
It
terror
numbed
and
the
the
pain.
pain.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And then moving on to Taekwondo, and then pushing myself, even though terrified, into college and meeting people. I was a profound introvert, and and then and then into the Mankind Project, and that was an opening of my heart and beginning of being able to truly be in relationship with people.
During that weekend?
During that weekend, and then really we formed these groups afterwards. They're called I groups or integration groups. And through this repetitive process of going in and being willing to face my fear, which I believe was a gift that Taekwondo gave me, right? Every time I stepped into the ring, somebody was trying to knock me out. There's real fear there, but it's not my terror, right? I was able to discern between fear and terror.
And the terror that your body had learned. Yeah.
Yes, right? Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
It gave me some discernment, and
what's real in the physical environment right now.
Yes.
In a stressful environment, you're going to fight someone, but it's also controlled, right? You can say stop anytime, I'm sure.
Yes.
And what's in you that is totally related to the present situation.
Yes, exactly. But I had several men in the work say, "Have you ever been abused?" And they didn't know that they had, they didn't know each other. But I exhibited these symptoms of someone that had abused in one way or another. And my answer always was, I know something happened. I didn't know. I just don't know what it was.
Do you remember the day you remembered what happened to you?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you share?
Yeah. I mean, it was, this was maybe I'm not kidding, couple hundredth time of going down into that darkness. And time again, things would get chipped away.
What do you mean things were chipped away?
Just being able to look at the depth of the destruction that happened inside of me was, it was a process. It wasn't like some magical thing that I could just go down.
There's no magic wand for you, unfortunately.
No, not for me. I mean, this was years of work, years of going down inside of myself.
What does it look like for you to go down inside of you? Can you tell us?
One of the men in my I group was this amazing psychoanalyst, and in his practice, he did dream work. So we would bring our dreams, and I had recurring nightmares. I was 35 by now or so, and I've been having recurring nightmares. It's another reason why I didn't sleep, is because I had these nightmares over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And so I would bring these, and so he in essence hypnotized me, and I went into a dreamlike state, and I did that several times. And in a lot of my dreams, I'd be fighting and killing, because I had all this angst inside of me. And I remember this one dream. I was on this battlefield, and the ground was all black, and the horizon was black, and the sky was black. It was all different shades of black, but it was all black. And there were bodies for miles. There were no trees. There was nothing other than ground and bodies. And you could see bodies on this black ground for as far as the eye could see.
Dead bodies?
Dead bodies.
So an apocalyptic.
All the folks I had killed in all those dreams is how it came to me. All those people. So, so that was a part of some of my dreams, was this killing. And my friend said, go over to one of the bodies. And I did. And he said, what do you see? I said, well, they're face down. And he said, turn it over. And so I remember kicking the body over with my left foot, nudging it over. And it was me.
Wow.
And so I went to the next one and I turned it over, and it was me.
Oh.
And the realization that all those tens of thousands of bodies were me.
Yeah.
And
how did you feel when you had this realization?
I realized that that I had been harming myself, for all these years with the drug addiction and also just there was this piece in me that it was like all the ways I could have gone with my anger, all the people I could have hurt, I hurt me, and there's something noble about that. There's something beautiful about that. And I didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I was a pretty cool guy. It's not that I didn't hurt people. It's not that, it's not like I'm 100% safe, but I was a pretty good guy. And where I decided to take that rage out was at me. And so what I did is I gave voice to that rage.
And do you think you wanted to, like in your dream, actually kill you or kill this part of you that was suffering? What is, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was just unexpressed rage of what had been done to me.
What was the intelligence in dreaming self-harming? Even though you were not realizing you were harming yourself, but
that was just it. I was just expressing my anger. I didn't realize, until that dream that it was always me.
What do you feel you were angry at?
I was just angry that I'd been raped and that I had to keep it a secret, and that I'd been terrified, and that it had profoundly affected my life in a myriad of ways. I was just fucking pissed off.
So you were angry at your own suffering in some way.
I was angry at everything.
At everything.
It was just because it was unexpressed. It was not a smart bomb. It indiscriminately, would destroy anything. Looking back, that's one of the gifts of Taekwondo is I could just beat the crap out of bags, and I did beat the crap out of people too, but it was legal, right? I mean, they signed up for it, and I just got very good at kicking people's asses. I split many bags, the big punching bags, I probably went through 4 or 5 of those. I would split them. I would work out 8 hours a day. So I had that outlet of that. And then it was like, after that realization of that dream is like, all right, let's express my anger in a safe way with this group of men. Let me get to know my anger and develop a relationship with that anger.
But more of an emotional relationship with it.
Yes, yeah. And just
in quality of presence, because maybe it would spill out in Taekwondo in some ways in your life, but now you were like, let's become familiar with it.
Yes. And so I wasn't so afraid of it, because my thought was if I ever let it out, I would kill everybody. And so I held it all in. Here's another hurdle of fear. I don't want to go down this road. This feels really scary, but if I don't, what's that leave me? If I don't, then I stay the same. That was the opening of doing that anger work and being able to befriend my rage and befriend my pain and my hurt. And a number of years later, as it goes, I don't know how long it was, in an I group, I had said, I remember my little baby shoes. And I was bent over, I was sitting on a chair, but I was bent over, which I imagine is pretty close to the position I was in. And my friend took a styrofoam cup and he tore it in half and he put it over my feet. And as soon as he did that, my body and my mind and my soul were ready to remember. And it just came with, I don't remember the act itself. I mean, I have physical evidence that the act happened, and I'm totally cool with it. But the memory, him telling me that he would kill me or my family, sure I just had an out-of-body experience when that was happening. And that's what I remember is what I saw.
As you tell the story now, like, do you feel a bit this out-of-body experience still? Or?
I don't now. I mean, I've made a tremendous amount of peace with this. I cry all the time. Yeah. And I will tell you, one of the greatest gifts has been in this men's group is to have a group of men that I know I can trust.
Yeah.
That I know that I can trust them. And that has given me the strength to go in over and over again, because I know when I come out, they'll be there for me. So got time for a quick story?
Of course.
So
I see you have tears coming.
Yeah. So one of the reoccurring dreams that I had, I still have them now, but it's in a quite different way. But the night they changed, we were doing this dream work, and so I remembered my dreams because they've been very instructive to me my entire life. And I was in a house dream, and and that means I'm in this house that's unfamiliar, that's super scary. I don't know what's around the door, except I know that he's in the house.
Yeah.
Right? And I can't ever see him, but he's there, and I have to go from room to room to room to try and find my way out. And he could be in any room, around any door, behind any furniture, right? So it's very terrifying, very scary. So I'm sitting in front of this big old Victorian home.
Jeff described his dream where he's inside this house where his perpetrator is. He does not know where he is, but to escape, he has to go through increasingly small rooms and doors until, in the smallest room and facing the smallest door, he can see a bit of light.
I couldn't see the hands. All I could see is the shadows of the hands in the light. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And these hands grab me and they pull me out. And it's all my I group brothers.
Wow. I have shivers here in your story.
So I was birthed into a loving group of men,
through the pain of this haunted house.
Yeah.
It feels like a haunted house.
Yeah.
Where you physically get constrained. Yeah. And despite that, you're taking into the light by those men.
Yeah. And they grabbed me. And so through the birth canal of this house, the men pulled me out, and that was the last bad house dream I ever had.
Wow.
And I mean, I was probably 40, right around there.
Yeah.
Now I still have house dreams, but I realize I'm in the house, and I can do lucid dreaming, and I'm cool with it. Yeah. But as far as totally terrifying, that was my last house dream. Wow. And so I've been having them for 35 years. So that's the power of being with.
I want to ask you about this. Being with men. You mentioned a friend.
Yeah.
And I've been in I group.
Yeah.
As you know.
Yeah.
And I see the connection that are established, and the sense of trust and safety and camaraderie and brotherhood. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
That happens. And what is about those connections with those men that were so profoundly healing?
Yeah, I think the way that group sets it up, it's very safe. We speak from the I place. We don't blame and shame. We don't offer advice unless it's asked for. So the actual energy is very safe. For us, for this group, I group that I was talking about, my original I group in Chicago, we had this bonding experience. Yeah. And it's also, what I found is it's a group of choice. You don't have to go.
Yeah.
The folks that are there generally want to be there, and they want to change their life. Yeah. And they want to.
That's what you wanted.
Yes, that's what I wanted. And it's been my experience that the vast majority of men somehow want to live a healthier, happier life.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing is that it's not therapy, but obviously it's therapeutic.
Yeah. How did you feel in those groups?
Yeah, absolutely frightened, and absolutely trusting that those men would be there, that they would be the hands to grab me.
So there is a polarity between terror or being frightened and feeling safe. You didn't use that word, but
yes, 100%.
Yeah.
It was absolutely safe.
And you were holding that polarity in those high group within you.
Yeah, and I've been doing it I've been in different I groups, for 32 years. I've never stopped. I can't imagine going through life without a, a group of men of support. It's you and I chatted about this a week or so ago. We talked about healthy relationships and what is expected from marriage now, and the idea that my partner has to be my confidant, super sexual but not too sexual, has to be absolutely I'm the center of the universe but kind of leave me alone, all this stuff, right? It's just too much for one person to handle. It's a lot of expectations for sure. And Stacy has her women's group. She went through the women's side of this 4 months after I did. So we've had our men's and women's group that we can be intimate. I can go and be intimate with these men and tell them everything about me. And I don't have to be the husband or the father or the business owner. I can just be Jeff and bring all of my Jeffdom
all of your parts.
All of my parts
is welcome.
Yeah, all of it's welcome, and have that safe place where I can explore the different parts of me that are enshadowed in dark places and the crevices of my soul, and have the courage there because I'm supported to go in because I know I can come out. I'll often see men younger in the work, making that first foray. And I remember how scary it is to go in because you don't know if you're going to come out.
Yeah.
And now, after 32 years of meeting every couple of weeks,
you're still doing the work.
I'm so much happier than I used to be, and healthier. And
you do from the outside, you look like an accomplished whole person, still doing the work, loving relationship.
Yeah.
You're receiving me in your beautiful house.
Yeah. And I owe a great majority of that to being not only for the original weekend, but mostly to being in men's group.
Yeah.
Because like I said, think about how my life could have turned out.
Yeah.
So my friends are dead. My life could have gone that way at any time.
Let me ask you, do you feel healing ever finishes?
No, I don't. Not that I know of.
What are you working on now, if you don't mind sharing?
Really, it's for me. It's now like moving into this part of my life. Like I said, I'm 62, so it's how do I hold space as an older man for myself, for my partner, for my children, for the men and women of my life.
So you want to build your capacity to do that?
It's less about me and more about you, and finding the capacity to do that in a way that I own my biases. I mean, I'm a white cisgender owner class, was raised Christian. I'm a prototypical privileged white male in America.
It sounds more like what you're describing sounds less about healing and more about growing your capacity to be there for others.
Yeah, but in that process, and especially for folks that don't look like me, act like me, love like me, right? It means how do I broaden my view and use the privilege that I have to create a world that's more compassionate, more diverse, more loving, right? It's not that I don't have work on myself. I still do. And I still have problems and I still work through things. There's this piece about me serving the world.
Yeah.
And
you mentioned your gift very early on during our time together.
Yeah.
Does it sound like your gift now to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's to shine the light where I can for inequities, to stand up and use my voice to serve others and to be the best. I can't call myself an ally, but that's only given. But to act as an ally would, and really to take a stand for us to love and treat one another with dignity and respect and honor, hold space for the uniqueness of all of our experiences. That just feels important to me.
It is important.
I think I have the capacity to do that.
I've seen that in you, Jeff, during our I group and our New Warrior training for sure. And men have come to talk to me independently of you, not knowing we would ever talk like we are today, telling me Jeff was remarkable.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
I've heard that.
Yeah, I'll take that. I will take that.
So if you were to state your gift connecting to your heart and your body, what would it be? What is it?
I'll stand in any fire with anyone, and I'll give you all of my attention.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Be there for someone in their fire, connected, caring. With all your presence.
Yeah. Because it doesn't have to be about me any longer.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I love that about me.
Yeah.
And I'm still growing.
I love that about you too.
Still growing into it. But it feels healthy. It really does.
It is. Yeah. You have a beautiful smile, so no doubt.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, it was a pleasure spending a little bit of time with you and hearing your story in more detail. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm grateful for the time.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. If you want to support this podcast because you believe in the work we do, make a donation. Visit storiesofhealingpodcast.org or donate directly in your podcasting app. Thank you. Every donation, no matter how small, helps us in our mission to destigmatize suffering and healing. It also means a lot to us. Look at the show notes to learn more about the Mankind Project. Thanks for listening to Stories of Healing, hosted and produced by me, Vincent Paul. Music, sound engineering, and editing by Matt Steislinger. Special thanks to my guest, Jeff, for trusting me, and many friends for their support. Damien Lebirigo, Leona Novakova, Matt Steislinger, and Paola Velez. Thanks to Fabian at ai-acoustics.com for his help fixing some of the audio issue we had.